For today's review, it is Sucker for Love, Date to Die For. Can this second helping of horny horror work as well as the first? Well, let's find out. The first Sucker for Love started as a Dread X collection project, and dared to ask the question, if the Elder Gods were hot and thirsty, would you go after them? And the answer to that was emphatic yes. So we're back with a Date to Die For as our second helping. When our hometown has been taken over by a mysterious cult and an elder god by the name of Roxanne is at the cause of it, we find that our home is now central to where, well, could be the end of life as we know it. Will we survive? Can we keep our sanity? And can we hook up by the end of all this? Well, you're going to have to play the game to find out. Now, the first game was more heavily into like the visual novel aspect with very slight gameplay interactions. For our sequel, things have been expanded. You now have the entire house to explore and hide and seek your way around. The game's 4-act structure will involve you going throughout your home, completing quests, finding items, and trying not to be killed by humans, cultists, or other things that are out there. All the while you'll be reading your mysterious book, conducting rituals, and seeing what else can happen between those pages. And of course running into some very hot and horny people every which way. And if they're not trying to kill you or drive you insane, they're going to come on to you. And yes, the game is going to be keeping with kind of the spoofy, again, very horny undertones and themes of the first game. Now, there are going to be, of course, jump scares and things that will probably scare you here and there, but this game is definitely going to be low on kind of the blood and gore side of things, in case you're a little squeamish in that respect. Now, the gameplay here has again been expanded upon, and this has, I think, come at kind of the cost of the permutations. In the first game, there were a lot of different routes you go through in terms of getting multiple endings, seeing multiple paths of dialogue with the various elder goddesses. This time, the kind of node or conversation tree kind of path you can see through each chapter has been greatly pruned. And in return, you now have more interaction with the world. In order to see everything in the game, you will have to solve some puzzles and figure out some things on your own, or of course, look them up. And like the first game, Date to Die For does have kind of the quote-unquote final boss section, which is also where it's at its most gameplay heavy. And again, if you didn't play the first game, I'm not going to spoil it for you here. All in all, this is a sequel that it does improve on the formula for the most part, but I would have liked, I think, a little bit more in terms of some wacky endings and situations. As part, again, of the charm of a game like this is just seeing, how far you can push things before everything starts to break and people go insane around you. And if you enjoyed all the bad, weird, and crazy endings of the first game, you may be a little bit disappointed here. As for gameplay itself, the only, I think, real issue that I had with this came with some of the stealth sections. As kind of the style of stealth horror games, you'll be opening up doors and poking your head through to make sure there's nothing trying to get you. If you open the door too fast, they're going to get you and you'll have to reload. But there are cases where the enemies will be moving around, and at one point I was kind of like soft locked. Every door open around me, there was a cultist there. I didn't quite know how I was going to get out of that situation. I wasn't sure if things just like kind of soft locked, or did I just have to reload and get around things. As with the first game, difficulty is going to be, I think, in the eye of the beholder. A lot of this game is more about the visual novel puzzle design, rather than, again, like hardcore stealth or hardcore horror, with exception to the final act as always. And I would say this is definitely kind of like 2 steps forward, 3 steps back in that respect. Again, because of the lack of more variety of the permutations and interactions with the various characters. Still, A Date to Die For is very standalone. You do not need to play the first game in order to get what you see here, and the first game does stand well enough on its own that if you missed out on that one, you can certainly go back to it and enjoy it for what's there. So For our second date, I think A Date to Die For is a great game. It does what it set out to do. If you enjoyed the first game, you're going to probably enjoy this one as well. If the whole act of smooching Lovecraftian gods doesn't interest you, then there's nothing in this game that's going to convince you otherwise. And I hope that if we do get a third date at some point in the future, we can kind of mix the elements of number 1 and number 2 together to get a really fantastic outing. So with that said, we're going to wrap up this review here. I would like to thank the developers for giving me a press key to check this one out. Let me tell you, your game for a future stream and video does not have to involve horror, romance, or going crazy. Then please reach out. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and see you all next time. Thanks for watching, and a special thank you to our Patreon supporters. If you enjoyed the video, do the YouTubing stuff. Be sure to visit our Discord and Patreon, and you're interested more in my thoughts on design, check out my game design books.